So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my latest remix, the NRG remix by Jazzy. I posted a short recently doing a quick breakdown of how I made it, and I got some comments asking me to do like a full-on track breakdown. Because I've not done a full track breakdown like this before, I'm just going to go through everything in depth, and then I'll probably edit out what I consider to be too much depth. But you guys will have to let me know in the comments. This is like a test one, really. Is there enough detail that you wanted, or did you want even more detail? Because I'm thinking about a 10 to 15 minute video here. But if we're going to go super detail, you're looking at like an hour, and it could get very boring. But if people want that, let me know, and I can upload longer ones in the future. But yeah, we're going to go into more depth and talk about how we did this remix. Producers always go about doing remixes in different ways. For me, this one actually came about in an odd direction. I didn't start with the NRG acapella and decide to do a remix. I actually built a sort of instrumental like bass skeleton track, and I couldn't find any cool vocals for it. And then afterwards I heard the Energy track by Jazzy and was like, oh, that sounds quite cool. So I sort of pitched it down, made it work in key, and then turned this song into a remix. So we'll assume that I had these vocals from the start, and I'll talk about how I built the project out and where we started. So just to note, the project I've loaded is the original remix pre-master, because I didn't want to load the master version as everything would have been bounced to audio, because that's kind of my workflow, and so you guys wouldn't have seen all the MIDIs and everything else. This way you can see the MIDI, you can see exactly how he worked, all of the pre-processing, and also because I haven't got anything on the master, it means my computer can actually handle it, because once we start getting into the mastering stage, it starts to crunch, and when we're recording as well, there's a lot of stuff going on the CPU, so yeah, this way, it doesn't cut out, we don't get any weird distortion. For me, I'm all about dance music, like on the club floor, creating moments, making music that people love and want to hear and dance to. What's important in dance music, I think, is all about the drop and the build. So the drop is like your highest energy point of the track. That's when everything's in, people are going, and the vibe is on. Now, the drop doesn't necessarily have to be heavy in terms of like a big EDM drop, but the drop is the fullest part of the track. So I always start with the drop, then I make a build from the drop, and then I build the rest of the track, because dance music is very structured, so you don't have to worry about creating loads of different sections. Once you have a main section, you can build out an entire structure and very quickly have what sounds like a full song. You then just need to add the source. So for tech house, the bass and the kick is like 90% of the track. If you can nail the bass and the kick, you're a heck of a lot of the way there, both above most people, because the bass and the kick is so important. I knew I wanted the bass to ride this track because it's going to have intermittent sounds, as you can see here. Nothing playing all the time, no like melodies, as it were. So the bass was kind of the melody. Woo! Let's go. Right, so let's go into a little bit of depth of how we did the kick and the bass. So for this track, I can't remember exactly how I did it because I don't have an older version of the project, but I would have written a bass to start, and also you got to pick key. Key is so important, making stuff work. And like I said, with this track, I wrote it before getting the vocal, so actually I just picked a random key, and you'll see using Ableton's scale feature, the key of this track, D major. So actually I pitched the Jazzy vocals into D major, opposed to the other way around. Normally if you're doing a remix and you want to keep the original vocals quite close to how they sound, you move the key of the track to the vocals. I did it the other way around here, but that doesn't matter, really. And as you can see, here's my bass line. So I find a lot of the time with bass, especially tech house bass, just work on the root note. You can start to play around with it if you feel like it needs something else, but a great starting point is find the root note, and the root note is the key of the track. So this key is D major, so we know the root note is D. So we start there, and just sort of type in a groove. I can't really give you a way of doing this. It's just trial and error of what sounds cool. Put some bass notes in and see what you get. So I got this with the original bass. I'm just going to loop this first bar. And actually all mine is a 1 bar repeat. You can see there. It's not a long bass note melody or anything like that. And I think that sounded quite cool. I tried to avoid, this is sort of like it kind of is a rule and isn't a rule. With bass and kick, because they both sit in the low frequencies, you never want your bass and your kick to hit at the same time. Because if they both hit, boom, and you get a kick at the same time, the frequencies will line up and muddle each other out, and they'll actually you'll get what's it called, phase. The frequencies will match up and they'll phase out, and you'll actually lose sound and formless, and it will muddle the low end, and it will just sound crap on big speakers and subwoofers once you get onto a big system. And the kick is the key of the track. The kick is more important than the bass because the kick drives the track. And dance music like this, we're hitting the kick on the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 of each bar. If we go down and have a quick look, I'll show you what I mean. So here's our kick here, right? So I have one note. I have one note just repeating itself constantly on the 4. So we need the kick to be hitting hard, and we want the bass to be hitting around the kick to keep that low end like grooving. So that's what I did here. I sort of kept the kick off of the 1. You can see here there's a gap at the front here. But then here, for example, I have a bass note that's hitting the same time as the kick. So then what you need to do there is sidechain, and we'll get into that because that's really important. One of the worst things to do is write the perfect thing for the track straight away. Write something, keep moving forward, and then your ear will hear what you'll sort of start to pick up what you think the track needs or what you might want to change as you get further into the track. Like this one here, I added a cool 808 hit right at the end. But that 808 is quite gritty. I didn't add that. I remember I didn't add that until the last day of working on the track. You know, last few hours work, because I felt like I needed an extra note at the end. Because you can see that there's a gap right there in the end, right here, where I felt that there should be something else hitting because the low end felt a bit loose. When we have a compressor, we can toggle the sidechain mode and pick a track to sidechain from. In this case, I picked the kick track. And what that means is here, whenever the kick hits and goes above this little arrow, it's going to reduce the input volume of this bass note, which means the kick is going to go in above the bass. So if we just play that second bass and the kick together, you'll hear what I mean. And watch this arrow right here. You can see that yellow bar is showing how much volume reduction we're doing constantly. I do kicks in MIDI because if you do them in MIDI, you can change the kick sound really quickly. As you can see, I've tried 3 different kicks in this track and I ended up with this kick 08. But if this wasn't in MIDI and I had pasted the volume, I'd pasted the audio clip in, I wouldn't just be able to duplicate the track and change the audio. I'd have to delete them all and put a new one in. So use MIDI, it's just so much better. Because what you can do is, if you don't like this kick, you can just drag a new sample onto the simpler and it'll replace it, or you can duplicate a track and create another one. Drums, I'm honestly, to be honest, I'm still figuring out drums. I've been producing for about a year and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to make cool drums. And the best advice I can give is layers. It's all about layers. So put multiple sounds together, mix them together, and it will sound better than just trying to use one hi-hat, for example. So we've got that groove on it. And you can hear there's a lot going on in there, and it sort of overall creates a nice groove. So your fundamentals to dance music are, clap, hi-hat, ride potentially, some closed hats around it, bit of percussion, and a groove. It's all about catching a groove with the drums as best you can. So I always start with an open hat because an open hat really gives you that drive. So I've got my open hi-hat there and there. Ignore all these other ones because these aren't being played. I'm just playing these open hats. And as for pattern, you can see that I've got a 2-beat loop, and I play the open hat on the 1.13 of each beat. Because then when you include that with the bass, you start to get what is a classic house, basically a house groove. And that is a super simple house drum groove. Any sound you put in, you should put an EQ on. EQ8 in Ableton, really easy. It uses very little CPU. And just check for frequencies you don't need. Because if you use a lot of splice loops, like I do, especially for drums, extra drums, a lot of splice loops come processed and they have a lot of low end that you just don't need because it's drums. And I've sort of merged a long reverb clap with a short punchy clap and created a more dynamic range for the claps. Take one away. So we're losing a lot of that reverb tail because the alternative clap has got a much longer reverb on it because I've added one. So little things like that really improve your track and give it the sauce. So again, once you've got the clap and the hi-hat, that's just starting groove. And then you can start to add things around it. Now, a lot of people do shuffle percussions and shuffle grooves using offbeat closed hats, which can sometimes work. I'm still not sure how I feel about them. I'm still a bit iffy and hit with closed hats and how they sound. But what's key is that the open hat is still the most prominent thing, and the clap. To be fair, I'm now hearing it again. Some of the mix does sound a bit odd, but because if we turn the hat off, you'll hear. So now it sounds like there's something missing, and it's that hat. And as you can hear, if you listen to the track, which I would assume you have if you want the breakdown, that's most of the drop already. We're basically there. I've added a double kick in, just for a bit of groove and function and stuff. Tech house is cool, one-shots, sounds, little melodies, hooks, things like that. Listen to your favourite artists. Listen to James Hype, Chapter and Verse, John Summit, all these people, Gorgon City. Whenever they make techie tunes, there's always little just things going on. So in the case of this one, what I've done is I've got a cool drop synth right on the drop. Simple MIDI. I believe this is triplets. Yeah, I wanted to try out triplets, so I did some triplet notes, and it sounded quite cool. I found the synth that I wanted, which again I used Serum, and I added processing. Decapitator gives it some grit and stuff. Reverb, Effectrix gives it a cool loop. And that's it. That's all that synth is. And under here you can see I've added a white noise just to give it a bit more punch in the frequency. Now, so the white noise sounds really loud there, but in the full song, it's not too loud. It just gives it a bit of presence. I made the white noise using a Serum initial preset. You can just toggle on noise, but you can download a white noise just as easily from Splice or something if you haven't got Serum. And there you go, some effects on it again. So I've got that, but if I only play that and nothing else, it's still going to sound too repetitive and boring. So we have to find other things to put in between, and this is where your particular sound sort of comes out, what you like to do in tracks. It's all very subjective. So I like these cool like brass hits, and I found that as kind of like an iconic part of this particular track. I think it sounded really cool in it, so I put those in again in triplets, because triplets just sound really cool, as you can see here. Triplet into a longer note, and I play those intermittently between these synths. So we get this, and it sort of rides off the vocal. Now I'm sort of breaking this down backwards as to how I did it. I had that sound, I didn't know where to put it in the drop, and I sort of found a pattern that worked for me based off the vocals. So if we go up to the Jazzy vocals, which obviously makes it the remix, you can see I've got energy here. So I'm now using that as a one-shot because it's an iconic part of the track. It's the name of the track. People know it. And so I feel like I need to be using that in the drop, because having the vocals in the build-up is cool, but you want to have some sort of subtle hook, nod to the track constantly in the drop, I think. So using NRG, and it sounds quite cool because it's like NRG. And then that energy goes into our brass one-shot, so we get a cool groove with it. Give it a listen all the way through for like 8 bars. So it's just going, but there's one of my synths, my little build-up synth. So you can hear straight away there's loops and patterns involved, and it's all in a pattern, and you could break it down. In the build-up, you don't want any bass, because bass, by taking away the bass and then bringing it back in the drop, it sounds heavier and more impactful than it actually necessarily is, because having no low end, you feel less energy in the room and everything feels a bit more empty. So take away the low end, bring the low end back, people then feel that groove again. Same with the kick, take away the kick. And if you are going to have a kick, which I do here, use a high pass filter on it, which is a filter that takes out the low end of the kick, so it sounds like this, opposed to, hear the difference? So although there's a kick in there, it sounds cool. It's not giving too much low end, so it's not giving away the game early. 16 bars for a build is standard for house music, dance music. 16 bars for the drop, 16 bars for the B section, or 8 bars, whatever, you know. But do 16 build, 16 drop. That's a good starting point. Add all your drums in, and then just take some away. Ones that are really epic, take them away that you don't need. See here, look, we'll have a lot of automation on this synth lead. So although it's a synth note and we don't even use it as the melody, I'm still automating it. So as you can see here, I bring up the reverb on it. I start the filter really low, so it doesn't come in too impactful. The auto filter keeps it nicely out of the way, but brings it in. There, you can see the frequency there coming up. And then I've got things like Shaper Box that's probably cutting something out. Endless Smile gives it that just Endless Smile just adds reverb, echo, delay, everything. It's like a build-up tool that does it all for you. So it's really cool. And as you can see, automation. The automation is key to making your track sound more professional. And for this, because it's a remix, I knew I had to have those jazzy lyrics in there. Went through the lyrics and sort of found parts that I thought were good. So obviously that's the build-up in the track. So you've got to use that. And then she does go into that, give me all your energy. Don't know how much in the original track, but I repeat it. And what I did there is I put that on a separate track. I made it sort of radio-y to sort of change the sound up. And again, I build it up. But other than that, I don't use a lot of the jazzy vocals. When you're doing remixes, especially house remixes, try not to use too much of the vocal, especially if it's rap. If there's anything rap related, you want to go to the chorus, you want to go to the singing parts. Bits that people are going to know really quickly, but you don't want to use too many lyrics, because if you use too many lyrics, it gets too complicated to make a cool house track remix, because the lyrics aren't going to work for it. This isn't too bad, but I use the chorus twice, and I use a little bit of the other lyrics for the breakdown. But other than that, I don't use anything. I just use little one-shots and create one-shots of the sounds, because that's what you need to do. So we'll play some here. So that Go and Live Your Life is like right at the start of the original track, and I thought it was a cool hook. So I turned it into a one-shot. As you can see, a lot of this is turning things into one-shots. So it's all about, cutting audio and changing the pace. Automation is your friend again. Just creating random sounds. I mean, listen to this. I created this from vocals bouncing one of these and adding stuff to it. And that's not even on beat. Look. That repeats every 1.5 beats. It's not even in time. It's not even in time with a 4/4 beat. But then when you put it with a kick, it sounds groovy as hell. So it's like, why not use it, It's got that little bounce to it, and then when the kick comes in, it just sounds cool. So why not? You've got to trial and error with this stuff. So for DJs to play, we're talking extended edits here. We're not talking radio edits. We're talking extended, what you'd get on the beat port, what you would play as a DJ, because we're making music for dance floors and for DJs. You want a long intro so that people that mix slowly and do long blends can mix slowly and do long blends with your music. So a good rule of thumb, 24 bars before the build-up. As you can see here, bottom left of Ableton. I can't move my mouse to it because it will get rid of it, but look at the data, bottom left, you'll see length 24 bars, 45 seconds. 24 bars is good because you can do you can break the intro into 3 sets of 8. Good reason to do this is you can progress your drums. So once again, copy your drums from the build, have all your drums in the intro and take stuff away to make it sound cooler. And with the kick, pretty simple in the start. I'm high passing for 8 bars and then full kick as normal and doing doubles on the high passing. You can hear the bass come in and it's big. It suggests where the track's going to go. It suggests more of the track without giving away too much. So then we get build up and we get our drop. So now what I tend to do, I do 2 drops in dance music. If I'm making a full remix, if I'm making like something to play quickly, I might just do 1 longer drop and outro it. But I want to give this to people, so I want to give them 2 drops to play. So I do the drop for 16, as you can see. And then I do a B section for 8 in the first drop. In the second drop, I do a B section for 16. So the second drop, you get 16 and 16, you get 32 bars. In the first one, you get 24, because I like the first one to be over a little bit quicker. That's not always the case. Sometimes I do 16, 16 for both. It just depends on what you're feeling for the track. So the B section, why is the B section different to the drop? You tend to introduce something new or take something away, reduce the hype a little bit. So we want to tell people that we've gone to a different part of the track, but we don't want to remove so much that people feel like we're in a breakdown, because we're not in a breakdown. We're still in the drop, just with different energy. So I introduced this new snare, drum, synth loop thing, which has got a sick groove on it. And I increase the vocal from just energy to all your energy. Opposed to just playing that energy, because again, we've just played the same energy on repeat, repetition. Too much repetition gets boring. You want to give the break, you want to give a bit of rest to the dance floor. You want to give the people listening to it a bit of a break from the build, from the the heavy music. In the case of this one, I found a cool little chorus that I thought was cool from the Jazzy song.
Cause I need your love, I need it now. Won't you show me how?
You know, it's just a nice little breakdown. And again, because it's a breakdown, I take away pretty much everything. We go very bare bones here, but we keep it leading into the build. And the way to do that, keep that continuity in this track, is I just extended the build up further back because it's that one note playing on repeat. So it's not really a problem to have it going. I just keep the frequency really low, as you can see. I don't build early, look. So this is my original build here. I extend it back, drop the frequency even more, and just keep it really low key in the background.
Now, won't you show me
And you almost can't hear it because the frequency is so low, but you know it's there. Okay, so the second drop, I tend to like to do something different because it's house music and it's techie. So change it up. Again, avoiding repetition is key. You need to avoid repetition as much as possible. So in here, what I do is I do a 4-bar gap where I literally just play the bass and the kick, which is really heavy, and then I bring some sounds in on top instead of going straight into the drop. So that's really stripped back there. And then that's our normal drop as it were before. I do what I call a mini out or a high pass filter section where I do 8 bars of taking away the main stuff like the leads and the shots and stuff, but I high pass the bass and the kick, so we get a bit of change again, variation. And then you can hear there's that change again, so it's just an extra way to let people mix that earlier if they want. Copy and paste the intro here, paste it to the end, because then you get 24 on the end, and just reverse, you move your things from right to left, reverse it around, so you get basically a mirrored image out and in and out, and then you get 24 on the out as well, which leaves you with quite a long song, but good for mixing, very good for mixing. And to add a bit of variation to the second drop, which you don't get in the first one, I used a big foghorn, which I got into key. I made it in key. So finally, if we talk about the vocals, how I actually, got the jazzy vocals in key, we'll go with this bit. Why not?
something that be pumping body?
So I probably would have started with that. I basically found the key. I knew the key I was working in, D major. Found the key of the track, the jazzy vocals, and pitched them down in the formats. There you go. 5 semitones, complex pro because it's best warp, and I actually knocked the formats down because on the original formats at 100 it sounded really weird. I'll play it.
I need something that be bumping.
So that sounds too much like jazzy, and it sounds like I'm trying to put 2 vocals together. By taking the formats down, I almost changed the voice, but we keep the essence of the original track because obviously it's the original vocals. So maybe I should do a live stream of breaking down a track for like 3 hours, and we talk about it properly, and you can ask me questions. So let me know in the comments if you want me to do a live stream breaking down a track or a different track or something like that, because then we can talk about everything, and I haven't got to edit it as much, and you can ask me questions live as well. But yeah, that is it. That is the whole track in a nutshell. So this is what I was working with originally, as you can see. Got my synth build into a drop. I had one bass line. So you can see that's how simple your build has to be to start, and then you can build from there. Keep adding things to move forward, and don't get stuck for too long, because that's how you don't end up finishing tracks, and you end up stuck in loops. Don't be those people. So yeah, that's the Energy track, Breakdown. It's available now on SoundCloud if you want to listen to it, free download as well. And yeah, let me know below if I should do longer breakdowns or do breakdowns live on stream. Recording is 1 hour too, so we'll see how long the video is in the end. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Keep producing, keep learning, keep improving. That's what we're about. Let's go.